Today we talk the basics of getting your listing prepared and the strategies to launch that listing in Amazon advertising with the help of expert Destaney. How cool is that? Pretty cool, I think. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Series Sellers Podcast by Helium 10. I'm your host, Bradley Sutton, and this is the show that is our monthly Tacos Tuesday, where we go deep into anything and everything Amazon advertising. Now, usually we have tons and tons of Q&A, but on this one, we actually prepared a special kind of presentation here at the Helium 10 office. And it was, first of all, before you even get to advertise your product, you've got to get it what we call retail ready. The first half of this is going to be about how do you get your listing retail ready? How do you make sure you are indexed for the right keywords that could potentially bring you sales that you'd want to advertise for? And then what are some of the basics of Amazon advertising in 2025, whether we're talking about match types and targeting and things of that. So we're going to go a little bit deep into this. And even if you're experienced, it might be a good refresher, especially some of the keyword research. I would say 90% of sellers are not using all of these keyword strategy methods that I'm talking about. So let's go ahead and hop into it. And then, at the end, we'll also get some of your top questions that we had when we recorded this live. Here we go. I want to take a quick time machine, a blast of the past when I was launching like 100 products a year. That was around before I started working at Helium 10, and they're right when I started. And in those days, the way to launch products was using outside services that would do like two-step URLs and what we would call giveaways and search, find, buy. And these were actually not against Amazon terms of service in those days. And then we had the Maldives honeymoon. So another thing that has happened in the last 6 years, these things are out of date. And also I've gained about 60 pounds, as you can see from that picture there. But how do we launch products now if we can't use those services? For those of you who are not old timers, basically what those were was like, hey, I have like these 5 keywords I want to rank for. So what you would do is you would use this service, and then they would get like, 30, 50, 100 people to like search for this keyword, and then, add it to the cart, buy it, and then you would rebate them. And then that's the way you would get to like page 1, which is what we want to do when we do launch. You remember those days, right?
I absolutely remember those days.
So all of a sudden, overnight, that became something that you couldn't do anymore. And that's the thing we have to understand about Amazon, all right? Things change. So don't like get so have your strategy so contingent on one specific thing that your business comes to a screeching halt and you don't know what to do. Before then, what could you do for reviews that was totally allowed on Amazon? Do you remember?
Aggressive follow-ups?
Not only that, that's kind of crazy. What she said is actually 100% true. You used to be able to send 5 emails to people and do custom messages and stuff. But even before then, I'm aging myself now in the Amazon world. You could legally give away product in exchange for a review. And when I say legally, it's not just, it wasn't against terms of service. It was like a part of terms of service. There would even be a little badge that said, this product was exchanged for a review or something like that. So it was like encouraged by Amazon. And then one night that became not valid. Now here's the thing, what we're talking about today, guys, I don't like doing guarantees, but I almost guarantee this is never gonna become against Amazon terms of service using advertising, right?
Absolutely. In general, the fundamentals we are covering are pretty similar to what we were doing in the old days. We just adjust that strategy. And that's why it's so important to understand the foundation. Yeah. What we're talking about is driving velocity and customer loyalty and making sure you have a high conversion rate. That's not going to change. That's fundamental to a success in any business. So if you can take those principles and figure out how to adjust them to the new market, you're going to be successful, and you're going to continue to be successful because you're going to be able to reiterate and make your process better as time goes on. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So let's go ahead and hop into it. I'm going to take the first kind of like half of this webinar and talk about how to get retail ready, because when we're talking about launch, it's not just, okay, hey, what do I do to get to page 1? I mean, that's the eventual goal, right, of launching a new product. But there are so many things that lead up to that day, even before you even have the product ready. And we call this like getting your product retail ready. And so there's a couple of podcast episodes where I go more into detail. I'm going to give you kind of a brief overview, but if you guys want to check later on, check out episode 466. I like naming things after exotic places that I travel to. So I called the keyword research strategy the Bali Blast, because I actually came up with it while I was at a conference in Bali. And then the actual launch strategy, we call it the Maldives honeymoon launch
strategy. But take note of those two episodes. You can find them at if you go to h10.me/466 or h10.me/600, and it goes a little bit more into depth about what I'm going to talk about. But some of the things I'm talking about today are even newer than these, because the last episode I did was maybe September. Like I said, I'm talking about a launch that I just did a couple of months ago. So when we talk about getting retail ready, there's three aspects. There's keyword research, customer research, and listing optimization. A lot of things like inside of those things as well. So let's just first get into the keyword research. But I said before that this was about a launch I just did. Here's the kind of like TLDR. This is the end result of the strategies that I'm going to present today. You can see here that I launched this sample product is some socks. It says beer socks. You might be wondering, what the heck is a beer sock? Well, they're these socks that have like a message on the bottom of the feet where it says like, hey,
bring me beer.
Bring me beer, exactly.
Yes, yes.
There's like I have ones that are like coffee and wine. Side note, the founder of Helium 10, who actually was in a previous slide, that was one of his first products in like 2015 when he first started selling on Amazon, before there was a Helium 10. But within 3 weeks, you can see we launched this product, and within 3 weeks, all of our keywords that I was trying to get ranked for and get visibility, I was in the top 5-10 positions for on Amazon. All right, so these are the strategies that got me to here. It's not just a one-step thing. So let's go ahead and hop into keyword research. And just know that, hey, the honeymoon period is alive and well. There's people ask me like, oh, I heard there's no such thing as a honeymoon. I was like, those people who say that, whatever they're considering honeymoon period is not really what the industry considers a honeymoon period. It's very accurate to say there's no some like secret algorithm in Amazon, right, that says, hey, 60 days, you're going to get crazy visibility and then it's going to stop. No, there's nothing like that on Amazon. When we say the honeymoon period, it just means that, hey, when you have a brand new listing, Amazon doesn't have that much data about what this product is, what's going to resonate with customers. And so what happens is the pool of data is small. So anything that happens to the listing, it has a lot more impact with ranking and advertising and things like that. And that's what we call the honeymoon period. You have a 6-month-old listing. Amazon is analyzing millions of data points about how customers have interacted with it, purchases, so one little thing, one sale here, one sale there, it's not going to move the needle too much because Amazon kind of knows what's going on. But you have this kind of window of opportunity when a product is brand new where, signals that are sent to Amazon from customers and from your listing, it has a bigger impact. So let's go ahead and hop into this.
Sellers have lost thousands of dollars by not knowing that they were hijacked perhaps on their Amazon listing, or maybe somebody changed their main image, or Amazon changed their shipping dimensions so they had to pay extra money every order. Helium 10 can actually send you a text message or email if any of these things or other critical events happen to your Amazon account. For more information, go to h10.me/alerts.
First step, guys, how do you find the right keywords? You don't even have it. Let's say you don't have Helium 10, you don't have anything. Guess what, guys? You've got free access to an amazing tool inside of Amazon Seller Central if you've got a professional selling account. It's called the Opportunity Explorer. So take some products that are existing sellers for some of whatever you're trying to get into, a niche, and then put them into Opportunity Explorer. See if they're part of niches. Niches are niches of keywords. And then you're going to get a list of like 10, 15 keywords or more, depending on how many niches it's part of. And that's a great starting point about relevant keywords that you've got to make sure that are in your listing. The next step, for those of you who have Helium 10, I assume that most of you do, niche keywords, the top ones, you can get with one click. All right, so you would just put in like an ASIN, a seed ASIN, and then the 5 to top 10 products that are closest to your product. All right, and then you just hit one button. It's called the top keywords button in Cerebro. Hit one button and boom goes a dynamite. You are gonna get a list of the top keywords in that niche, all right? Sometimes it's 3 keywords, sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 30, it could be 50 if it's a big niche. But basically what this list of keywords are the keywords that most of the top sellers of this product are getting their sales from, just with one click, all right? So add that to your list. Next thing is what I call opportunity keywords. It's the same thing on that same Cerebro search that you're doing. And like I said, I didn't want this to be like a how to use Helium 10 or Product Opportunity Explorer. We have very detailed videos on how to use Opportunity Explorer, how to use Cerebro. This is just showing you what you need to look for. And then you could like find those more, selective tutorials and get like actual step-by-step. I'm giving you just a broad overview. But anyways, the next step in Cerebro, after you get the top keywords, is get opportunity keywords. And these are keywords where maybe only one or two of the top products are ranking for it, where you're not going to be competing with the whole, the whole top 5 or the whole top 10. Usually these are kind of like lower hanging fruits where it might be easier to rank for if you are just getting started on Amazon. So again, it's a one-click button in Cerebro, says opportunity keywords, and then you're going to get a whole bunch of keywords that didn't come up in that top keywords one that you were selecting. Next thing is historical keywords. This is important because products sell differently throughout the year. Like you've got a mason jar here. Probably that sells kind of like the same. Can you think of a seasonal product where it's definitely going to have peaks and valleys?
Let's use the mason jar as an example. So if I'm selling a mason jar, I could sell mason jars. And that's incredibly broad, and I'm going to be trying to target everyone. In reality, mason jars have multiple uses. You have the canning community. You could build your listing specifically targeting the canning community, and what you're going to talk about is, the sealability, how well it seals, or XYZ. On the flip side, we also have mason jars that are definitely used for weddings. We've seen a rise in that style of wedding decor. It's the barn weddings. If I'm still selling the same mason jar, maybe I want to create a listing that showcases my mason jar on the table for multiple different weddings. That's the type of audience I'm going to attract. On the flip side, there's people like me who are going to use it for water and use it within their kitchen. That should be a very different listing as well. So that's why it's so important to understand the breakout we're giving you here. The first one was the keywords that are relatively going to rank well, right? It's the mason jar is going to be your highest volume term that you're definitely going to need to target. On the flip side, we're going to be looking at opportunity keywords, which is mason jar and wedding, mason jar for canning. That should be a whole different audience you're targeting, because you're going to want to make sure your listing is built for the audience you're wanting to attract. That's where you're going to get the increase in conversion rate. If you try to target everyone, you're going to convert no one. But if you get really specific on things like historical keywords, where we can clearly see there was a wedding trend for mason jars, and now we're into the canning community because of the egg prices. Went on a little bit of a tangent there. But you can see why it matters to break things out, because your listing needs to be built towards the audience we're targeting.
Absolutely. And then she actually just gave me an idea with what she was talking about. Like weddings are, I would assume usually, especially in colder areas, you're not going to have too many barn weddings maybe in the middle of December, right? So let's say you were making a mason jar that only had one use. It was only going to be for weddings. So if you were doing your keyword research in December, you're not going to find too many keywords that is ranking for like the wedding related keywords. So that's where this historical comes in, is take the time machine in Cerebro and look at whenever a wedding season is, April, May, June, July, and then what were the keywords that people were converting for then? This is super important, because when you're looking at Opportunity Explorer using the regular Cerebro, it is absolutely great, but it's showing you what's happening right now or in the last month. But a lot of products out there, a more extreme example might be beach ball. It's definitely not going to be sold in December. Christmas tree ornament is definitely not going to be sold in July. So if it's July and I'm trying to prepare myself for Christmas season, which you shouldn't do in December, you should be doing that in July. You're not going to be able to find the right keywords in July unless you're doing this like kind of time machine. So this is historical keywords is the next step that you need to do to find out what keywords were driving sales for a particular product in its peak season. Only do that with Cerebro. Next step, brand analytics. This is again something that comes directly from Amazon. It's called Brand Analytics Top Search Terms. You can get it directly in Amazon. We've got some tools in Helium 10 that tie directly to Amazon to bring that in. So those competitors that you were analyzing in Cerebro, put those in black box and then filter out for the last 20 weeks. Just look at a big chunk of time. What were products that brought it sales? And this is not Helium 10's estimation or some algorithm we use to say, we think that there's sales. No, this is information coming direct from Amazon that these keywords drove guaranteed sales to these products. So that's another way to find products. This is like the beginning of the cool data that Amazon released, because it's probably the older one, like 4 or 5 years ago. And now we've got like search career performance and stuff like that. Next step, look at your competitors' ad strategy, their advertising strategy. Where are they bidding top of search? Like if you're a pretty good seller and you are consistently showing up in the top 4 sponsored positions on a keyword consistently over time, what does that probably mean? Like, why are they spending money to be top of search?
Because it's a really important keyword.
Yeah, I mean, so you might be a brand new product And you would learn that over time. Like maybe you'd have some auto campaigns, and over time, oh, this keyword is working good. Let me go ahead and put it in a manual campaign. Oh man, it's still converting well. Let me make sure my bid is high so I always show at top of search. You would figure that out on your own anyways. But guess what? If you have competitors who've been in this market for months or a year, you're basically taking advantage of their research. And now on day one, you're going to be focusing on keywords that they already have proven work for them. So the way to do this is, again, right there in Cerebro, just use a filter and say, hey, where have my competitors been consistently showing in the top 5 or the top page of sponsored results? And, again, if they're decent sellers, you can just kind of, unless they're just throwing money at Amazon for no reason, which not many decent sellers do, you can kind of deduce that they must be getting sales from these keywords. Otherwise, why are they trying to bid, top of search? But again, you can get that information right here in Helium 10. Another thing that, again, comes from Amazon is we call it the Amazon recommended keywords. This is an API that Helium 10 exclusively has with Amazon. I think anybody can get it, but for some reason, only Helium 10 is taking advantage of this, where it's kind of like how relevant something is to Amazon, and especially the Amazon advertising platform. So this is a score, an internal score that Amazon gives for every keyword compared to every product. So what happens is, let's say that there's a keyword coffin shelf. Well, Amazon has like a list of 200 keywords, and each one has a score that says, hey, this is the most relevant keyword for this. It doesn't mean it's the best keyword, but it's just the internal mechanisms of how Amazon's algorithm works or how it views keywords. And so again, come in from day one, Amazon's not going to know too much about your product, but plug in your competitors' products and we'll tell you what Amazon thinks is the most relevant keywords to that product. You can only do this with Helium 10, but this is like a lifesaver for me, because when we're talking about advertising a brand new product, I'm sure you've seen it before, where day one, like you can barely get any impressions sometimes. Yeah. And it's usually a relevancy issue. But if you have like the top phrases that Amazon thinks is relevant for another product, but then you've got like those keywords in your listing, like in phrase form, what that does is now Amazon's like, oh, we don't know what this new kid on the block is. I just aged myself. There's new kids on the block. This Backstreet Boy is, this new kid on the block is, but we notice it's got a lot of similar keywords with this one product. And we know what this product is. It's been there a year. And now from day one, you're going to start like showing up in auto campaigns and things like that for keywords that some of your competitors are getting impressions on. So this is a super important step as well to kind of like round out your keyword research. And then the last step, I'm going to talk about for keyword research here is getting the top keywords from frequently bought together. It's a similar thing. Like here I entered, this was, you can't tell from this ASIN, but this was a coffin letterboard. All right, it's like a letterboard that you put letters on, shaped like a coffin. And I was doing some research on it, existing competitors, and I noticed non-letterboards were showing up infrequently bought together. Like these are some bat-shaped stickers, I guess. I
am concerned with 30th birthdays, which I just celebrated.
Whoa!
Being aligned with coffin shelves.
Yes, that's.
It used to be 50 years over the
morbid,
hill.
A little bit morbid.
I feel like it's now 30 over the hill.
But then again, you've seen pictures like those memes of like the Golden Girls.
Yes,
how they were like 43 or something, and then 43 nowadays does not look anything like 43 back then. So you're good.
Hot.
You're good. But anyways, these are not other letterboards. These are like complementary products. And again, so if you kind of relate your products from day one to the products that are showing up frequently bought together, it's again going to widen the net of where your ads, your advertisements, if you're running auto campaigns, and are going to show up. And this is, again, information from Amazon. The frequently bought together is from Amazon. Amazon is telling you, hey, your competitor, they had a letterboard, and there was a lot of people who the same time they bought this letterboard, they bought these bat-shaped stickers. Now I have an advantage over other coffin letterboards who are just launching, who don't realize that they're relevant to these other kind of non-relevant, products. But again, it's going to help you in advertising. So real quick, the last step here is Amazon is not just about keywords. You got to understand the customer. This is not new. Anybody who's been teaching how to sell on Amazon is for any time, period of time, will tell you, yes, you have to be relevant to the algorithm. That's what the keywords are for. You got to show up in search. But at the end of the day, are you selling to the algorithm? Who are you selling to?
The customer.
The customer.
Which,
hopefully you guys say that in the chat here too.
Yeah, waiting. It goes back to our mason jar example. The mason jar data is going to tell you what are your top keywords, but it's your job to understand what customer you're selling to and how to adjust your creative, your content, your main image to that specific niche audience that's going to give you a competitive advantage over everyone else.
Absolutely. So again, yes, be relevant to the algorithm, but be relevant to a human being. You are selling to a real person, and you've got to connect with them if you want a better chance. So what can you do that's outside of the scope of keywords for that? One is look at the reviews. You know, like this is another product I had done a test on. It was like this toy storage hammock, and I was looking at the reviews of another product, and I was just looking at what were the common 2 and 3 word phrases. This is from Helium 10 Insights, and I could see, hey, people were saying how cute it was. That's not a key. Very cute is not a keyword that people search for, thinking that they're going to get a toy storage. It's like very cute. Let me type that in. That's not a keyword. It's not a search term. It's not something you advertise for. But that tells me, hey, in my images and in my product, I got to convey the thing that, hey, my product is cute, and people who see it will think it's cute. All right. Daughter's room was one of the top keywords. So now I'm like, okay, for my images, I got to make sure to show that it's in, you know, maybe a girly style of room, and, you know, girly toys or something, and show, hey, do you have a daughter who has a lot of stuffed animals? Look how you can use it. You know, these are not keywords, but it's use cases. It's the persona you're thinking of, all right? So this is important to put in your listing to be retail ready, the kind of like emotional touch points about how somebody might use your product. Another free tool that's available inside of Amazon, going back to the Opportunity Explorer, they've got AI assisted summaries of reviews. So look at your competitors. If they're in Opportunity Explorer, look at the customer review insights there and see what kind of things that they are showing up for. Next thing is look at their image strategy. All right, again, people have been selling for a year or 2 or 3 years. They change their images based on the feedback they get from customers, based on what they see like resonates well. Take advantage of their 1, 2, 3 years of research and customer testing. Look if you see common things like, hey man, everybody in their 5th or 6th image has like what do you call it when it's the measurements? Is there a word for that kind of?
Yeah, but
it's like kind of like an infographic, but Dimensions?
Yes,
like
yes,
dimensions. It's like a dimensional infographic where it shows the, hey, this is 10 inches wide and 20 inches, tall and stuff like that. Like, hey, everybody, all of my competitors have that same image around their 3rd or 4th image. Usually it's not by coincidence, because that's what they found works best. So now, you know what, you should probably have your 3rd or 4th image, something similar to that. So just make sure that you take a look at your customer, your competitors' images, and you can do that pretty quickly just by looking at their images and putting them on a PowerPoint or in Helium 10 listing analyzers. This is where this screenshot comes in. Last part, this is again last part, because this is not used by too many people, but Rufus AI, sometimes look at the questions that people are asking. Now, almost nobody on the buyer side is using Rufus. So this should not be one of the first things. If people are telling you on LinkedIn or other places, hey, Rufus is the most important thing you need to be worried about, forget that. It's not. But if you've done all the other things, this can help. Like here's a listing I changed because of Rufus. All right. There was a question that was coming up on competitors' listing that says, how sturdy and durable is it? And on my listing, it didn't know the answer, right? So what I did was I changed one of the bullet points to answer that question, and within 10 minutes of the listing being updated, now Rufus said, oh, according to the product description, it is sturdy and durable. So yes, for the very small handful of customers that are using Rufus, you want to be optimized for that as well. So then the last step, just put everything together in your listing optimization. And you do that by making sure all those search terms and keywords are in your listing so you can be indexed, making sure those emotional touch points and those connection points with the customer are in there that you did from your customer research. Put it all together to make a good listing. And then you guys can screenshot this. I'm not going to go into detail here, but the last steps, that I did for these launches I've been doing, do some tests with the pricing, try and establish that list price so you can get like a strike through price if you have a coupon code. Make sure you use Amazon One. You can get 2 reviews for free, 10, I don't know how much it costs. It was like $50 or $100 for 10. And then I think it's like, if you want 30 reviews, it costs like a couple $100. That's verified reviews from actual customers and 100% Amazon TOS terms of service compliant because it's from Amazon. Always do Amazon buying. Make sure that you're indexed for your main keywords. And then I like to choose 5, 10 keywords that I'm going to launch for. I use Helium 10 ads to make my campaigns because it's so much easier to manage. And then I'm just going really hard for those initial keywords that I think I can start ranking for right away. And as you saw, within 3 weeks, I was on page 1 for all of those keywords because I did all of these steps. So that's more of the retail ready. But let's dive a little bit more into advertising, and Destaney's going to be talking a little bit more about that.
Okay. So it's really important to understand the keyword research that needs to be done here, because all of that should be directly integrated with your Amazon advertising strategy, which is what we really wanted to talk about here. So you have the keywords, you understand the volume potential with those keywords, you understand your competitive advantage on the mason jar example. How do we integrate that directly into ads? Well, first and foremost, I think it's important to understand Amazon targeting. So within Amazon Advertising Console, we have 3 different options. We have sponsored products, sponsored brands, and sponsored display. This is, you log into Ad Console, you're going to see this. If we look at the next slide, what we're gonna dive into is where those ad types show up on the page. So the very top of the page you can see, right, is a sponsored brand ad. It's everything highlighted in green. Directly below that, it's for sponsored product ads. Now pausing here real fast, Amazon advertising is such an important part of your strategy because those ads can show up at the top of the page. How long did it take you to get ranked decently well for?
Organically?
Yep.
It was like 3-4 weeks.
3 to 4 weeks. And that's normal. I mean, that's pretty fast actually is what I would say. But if you launch a product on Amazon from scratch, it would be incredibly naive to think you can get on page 1 that quick. But as a customer, does anyone go to page 2?
I don't.
No one goes to page 2. So in order to get yourself in maximum visibility early on, you need to bid on the terms that are most relevant for your product. Now, of those 3 targeting types, sponsored products, sponsored brands, and sponsored display, we almost always recommend starting with sponsored products. Why? Well, as you can see, they look just like an organic listing. They show up at the top of the page and throughout the page. Sponsored products in general are typically going to drive around 70 to 80% of your advertising sales. Sponsored brands get amazing visibility at the top of the page. They're a little bit more difficult to run due to creative setup. They're going to drive an additional, 5 to 20% of ad sales. Turning slides here, we're going to see on the PDP, we also have sponsored display. Sponsored display is highlighted in red, has a lot less inventory. There's a lot less real estate to bid on, so sponsored display is only 0 to 5% of your total ad sales. But as you can see here, that blue carousel is another sponsored product carousel. There's 33 sponsored product items there. Sponsored products take up the lion's share of real estate on the page, so that's why I always say they influence your organic positioning a little bit more than anything else because they're going to drive the most sales for you. So now we know about targeting, we can move to the next slide. You've kind of segmented and said, hey, let's start with sponsored product ads. I have the keywords that I want. Now, do I go automatic targeting? Do I go manual targeting? Do I go product targeting? Do I go category targeting? In general, starting with an auto campaign is probably the easiest campaign you can run. Most people jump straight into automatic targeting just because maybe they're unsure of their keywords. Maybe they didn't listen to a single thing Bradley said. They're incredibly distracted by me sitting next to him. Skip all of that. They go straight into an auto campaign to help them with keyword research. I think that's one of the most beneficial aspects of an auto campaign. So if you're launching a product from scratch, we always recommend starting an auto campaign, keeping your bids a little bit low, because that's going to allow the algorithm to start showing what products they think are related to your ASIN. Now, in the beginning, if you have no data, no reviews, the auto campaign may not perform that well, because again, Amazon isn't quite sure what keywords to show up for your listing, so they may go really broad. If this is the case, and you did pay a ton of attention to the beginning of Bradley's webinar, you know exactly what keywords you want to target. I always recommend starting with a sponsored product manual campaign. This means you are hand selecting the keywords that you are going to be showing up for. You know what's best. You know you want to bid on mason jar. You're going to put that into a campaign. Now within manual targeting, we do have keyword and product targeting. Those are both beneficial. Product targeting kind of allows you to target specific ASINs. So if you did, the reverse ASIN research and you understand what you need to target from a competitive advantage standpoint, we can create a campaign targeting all of our competitor ASINs. It's truly as easy as uploading a list of ASINs that are your direct competitors and making sure your ad shows up on their product detail page. If you want to go a little bit broader, we have category targeting as well. Category targeting kind of casts a really wide net and allows you to bid on every term within a category. Typically not best for someone that's starting in the very beginning. It tends to go a little bit too broad and kind of cast a wide net, so you can get a lot of clicks but not a lot of sales. So going back to the automatic targeting campaign in a little bit more depth, when you create this campaign, it's going to allow you to target close match, loose match, substitutes, and complements. Pretty much what that's saying is Amazon's going to open up and cast a wide net. They're going to target terms that are close to your product. They're going to analyze your mason jar and say, okay, maybe we need to show up for water glass or canning jar, right? We're going to target loose match, which is maybe going to go even broader. Maybe we're going to target something like gardening or homestead or weddings again. Substitutes and complements are, what are products that can be directly substituted for my mason jar that I could show up to that's going to convert a customer. Complements is targeting products that can be used complementary to my mason jar. Maybe it's, what do you set your, what is this called?
Coaster?
Yeah, coaster. Yeah. Maybe it's going to show up for a coaster because we know customers are going to kind of broadly switch between the two. Out of the 4 of these, I think it's pretty easy to see what targeting types are going to be a little bit more closely related. In the early stages of a launch, we always recommend targeting closely related terms. I typically keep on close match and maybe turn off loose match and substitutes and complements in the beginning. Because again, I don't want to cast too wide of a net.
Yeah.
We're not 100% sure what terms we're going to show up for in the early stages. So we try to keep it really precise so that way we can kind of guide Amazon on what keywords are most important because we did all of the keyword research from the beginning. Now, next slide, I am in control. You can see we have keyword match types. So again, I chose a sponsored product ad. I decided on manual targeting this time around. What match type do you use? So match type can get a little bit tricky because as you can see in the below example, cat toy was the term that I wanted to target. It was incredibly important to me. It's my most relevant keyword. If I bid on exact match, I'm only showing up for cat toy. So exact match, you're only bidding on cat toy. Again, this is a really precise approach to running your Amazon ads because you did the keyword research ahead of time. You only want to show up for this term. Now, the problem with that is it can be really competitive because everyone else is bidding on cat toy. So maybe we want to go to phrase match and expand that search a little bit. So we're still bidding on cat toys, but now in phrase match, we may show up for best cat toys for indoor cats. It's the phrase that includes that original search. That's going to broaden our approach a little bit while still allowing us to be pretty concise with our targeting, right? Phrase match typically drives more sales because again, we're showing up for more searches at this point, but maybe it doesn't convert as well because maybe I have an outdoor cat. So I'm bidding on indoor cat in the phrase match, but I have an outdoor cat toy. So maybe my conversion's a little bit lower. It's going a little bit too broad, which does bring us to broad match. Broad match is exactly that. It takes a key roots, cat toys, and it expands it. So the good thing with broad match, we run broad match strategies in general, is it expands your reach a ton. I have a Rottweiler who's absolutely obsessed with walking around and chewing on all of the cat toys. He does not prefer his dog toys. He wants the little tiny feathers and the little tiny mice. He carries them and takes them away from the cat. So yes, maybe if I bid on cat toys, I will convert for dog toys. That is why broad match is so important. But in the early stages, when you don't know that, you don't know the keyword research, broad match can be a little bit too aggressive. So maybe you want to focus on exact match and phrase match in the early stages. So I wanted to use a really quick example. You mentioned suggested keywords and how it's built directly into Helium 10. Yep. This is what it looks like directly within Ad Console as well. It is incredibly important to do your keyword research because as we mentioned in the mason jar example, some terms are going to be direct and drive the majority of your volume. Air fryer, as you can see with a space, is the most competitive. It has the highest suggested bids here. That's because keyword research is a little bit of common sense in the beginning. If I'm selling chapstick, I'm bidding on chapstick. If I'm selling mason jar, I'm bidding on mason jar. But if you are thinking to bid on that, so is everyone else. So yes, you want to bid on it because your customers are typing it in, but you also want to do the long tail keyword research that we talked about. We want to look at the historical trends and see if maybe names have changed for our products. We want to look at the long tail terms because those can often be a lot less competitive. Air fryer, toaster, oven combo, glass air fryer, deep fryer, air fryer with no space. Those are all a little bit cheaper because not everyone else is thinking to bid on them as aggressively. So when you're bidding on your main terms, that's going to drive your sales typically, but it's also going to be the most expensive because it's an auction. Everyone's wanting to bid on that placement. If we do the long tail keyword research, we can get a lot cheaper suggested bids and a lot cheaper bids in general because not everyone's thinking to bid on those terms. Now, a little soapbox here. I always get the question of like, Amazon suggested bids are terrible, they don't work. Like, I don't know why that's an assumption in the space. How suggested bidding works is it takes all of those full placements that we discussed earlier, top of search, which is a billboard ad, bottom of search, product detail page, and it averages them out. It is very likely for air fryer, I've played in that space, that the top of search bid is $10 to $12.
Whoa.
It's insane. Yeah. But the sponsored product ad on page 5 may only cost 13 cents because no one's going there. So your suggested bids are kind of an average on the market pricing. It's how much everyone is bidding across all of those different placements. So that's why there's a wide variation in suggested bids. I like to use it as a guide rail to say, hey, air fryer again looks to be our most expensive. Makes sense, it's our top keyword. Deep fryer, which is a whole different product, is gonna be a lot cheaper. Looks like there's a little bit of a market for deep fryers nowadays as well, that air fryers are a little bit trendy. So it's a good opportunity to dive into. Now, to kind of close up on the targeting types, I wanted to talk a little bit about bid management with the targeting types. So with an auto campaign, as mentioned, Amazon's doing a lot of the heavy lifting with the keywords. It's casting a wide net, it's pulling in all those keywords that we discussed earlier. The problem with that is you're setting the bid at the campaign level. We're going to talk a little bit more about bid management after this, but you don't have control over all of those separate keywords. So we looked at the example of dog toy showing up in a broad match campaign. You can see here, if I bid on an auto campaign $1.37, all of those search terms could potentially cost us $1.37. There's not a lot of control. In a manual campaign where you are doing your own keyword research, you're able to set the bid at the keyword level. This is incredibly, incredibly important because now I can take all of those auto campaign search terms that are doing well for me and set the own bid. So for dog toy, I'm gonna bid a lot lower because again, I'm selling a cat toy. I don't wanna bid high on that. I don't wanna pay for the best traffic because it's not gonna convert. But for cat toy, maybe I want to bid a little bit higher because it is relevant. Cat toy for kittens, that's exactly what my product is. It is designed for kittens. I want to bid the most because that's where I'm going to get the maximum visibility at the top of the page. So that's kind of an entry into how your bid management needs to change based on your targeting types, which leads us to understanding Amazon bids. So let's talk about Amazon bid management. I think this is one of the more difficult topics when it comes to Amazon advertising. There's 100 different directions we can go here. But to set the context, Amazon advertising is real estate at the end of the day. And when you're opening a retail business, the first thing they tell you is location, location, location. If you open up a retail store selling wine in the middle of nowhere, how are people gonna see it? They're not. If you open up a wine store in the middle of the Vegas Strip, everyone's gonna see it and you're gonna have a lot of foot traffic. It's the same thing with Amazon advertising. We are just bidding on real estate. The real estate at the top of the page that I have highlighted here is the most competitive real estate in the space because everyone sees it. If you type in any search term and scroll down, the first thing you're gonna see is the sponsored ads at the top of the page. If you want to win that placement, you bid on a relevant keyword and you bid really, really high. Like really high. That's how you win that. Now, the trade-off for that expensive placement is a ton of traffic, a ton of clicks, and potentially a ton of sales if it's relevant. But not everyone can afford that. So some people want to bid a little bit lower. And maybe when you bid lower, your ad shows up on the product detail page. Maybe it shows up on page 2. You get less traffic on a specific product detail page because not everyone's clicking on that product detail page from their search. So your bid's cheaper. It's a little bit, I would say, more efficient. You typically have a better ACoS, a higher ROAS, but the trade-off is you get less sales because you're not showing up in a high traffic placement. That's really important to understand. So how do you balance the two with bid management? Well, here's kind of a quick example I'm gonna use. Now, let's assume my variables are constant across the board. You can see that with a 20% conversion rate, means 20% of the people that view my listing buy my product. I have a $20 product and I'm getting 20 clicks. Your bid has a direct correlation with your ACoS. The higher your bid, potentially the higher your ACoS. The lower your bid, lower your ACoS. That's really how bid management works. Now, why doesn't that work directly? Well, because when I am bidding lower, I am not getting as much traffic, right? I think the first thing that I always get asked on sales calls or discovery calls with brands is I want to increase my sales and decrease my ACoS. That's everyone's dream, but it doesn't always work like that because this is how bid management works. You bid high, you show up on page 1. You bid low, you can afford it, your ACoS is fantastic, but you get a lot less sales. So every brand's goal should be balancing that profitability and scalability, but for your own brand goals. Now, this is where it gets interesting because Amazon is a flywheel. So if you bid higher and you drive more sales, more people are going to buy your product and you're going to get more reviews. And when you get more reviews, your conversion rate's better. When your conversion rate's better, your organic rank increases. So a lot of people like to view Amazon advertising in a silo and say, hey, I only want to target a certain ACoS. At the end of the day, you need to view the bigger picture of if you're driving more sales with ads, can you improve your organic rank? And when your organic rank improves, your total sales are going to improve. So the goal of Amazon advertising should be finding this balance. Bidding low to focus on profitability, bidding high to focus on sales and scalability. When you're launching a product, this is incredibly, incredibly important to realize because kind of as Bradley says, Amazon doesn't exactly know where to put you on the page in the early stages. So we like to take those keywords that are priority and bid high on them so we can drive a ton of traffic up front and get a lot of orders, and that's gonna help ignite that organic rank. If I'm bidding on dog toy and 50 people buy a dog toy in the very beginning, Amazon's going to say, I have a lot of data that shows when people type in dog toy, they buy this product. That means Amazon's making money. So how does that product increase on the page? It's through data. And where does that data come from? It could be your Amazon advertising. I'll pause there. Any thoughts?
Yeah, this is important because let's just dive a little bit deeper into what you were talking about and what we see here in this slide is how does, maybe this is what they're asking, like, how do you know then where to find that balance? So like, obviously in the beginning, yes, like I aim, like you guys saw that I got to page 1. That wasn't in a profitable way. Like I actually aim to lose money because my conversion rate's not going to be great. I'll probably get clicks, but like here, like maybe my bid is $3, as you guys see in the slide, and my ACoS is 75%, but I'm fine all day long. Am I making money at 75% ACoS? No, but I'm getting those sales. When I'm a new product, my conversion rate might not be great because people will see 1, 2, 3 reviews or something, so I and my price is lower, so that is going to make my ACoS worse. But I'm totally fine with 75% ACoS when I launch a product. I'm fine with 100% ACoS. But then over time, that's not sustainable. Yeah. Like you're not going to have a sustainable business. So then you kind of like want to move to this lower one. But then still, it's not like your sales are going to tank because theoretically speaking, by that time, hopefully your organic rank is up and you're getting free sales where you're not paying that. So now you've got a mixture. So this is a really great slide. I hope you guys understand what you're looking at here.
And I think to Bradley's first question of like, how do you find that balance? And that's what's difficult about these webinars is everyone wants the textbook answer. It takes $500.
Magic button.
Yes. Like they want, it takes $500, target 3 keywords, only an exact match, and again, on a full moon. It doesn't work that way. We have some brands that will, launch with a $5,000 budget and they can rank a lot quicker. We have some brands that only have $500 a month, and that's going to take a little bit longer because it's going to take time to gather that velocity. If you have $5,000 budget, you can drive 500 orders in a few days. If you have a $100 budget, it's going to take you additional time to gather that velocity. So the real answer is finding the perfect balance for you and your cash flow, but also being realistic at the expectations here. The problem with bid management is the market sets the cost. Again, we're going back to real estate. So yes, you may think that top of search should only cost $2, but if your competitor is willing to pay $25 for that placement and someone else is paying $26, the market is setting the demand. And a lot of people forget that. Like I said, everyone wants a lower ACoS, so they're like, lower your bid. I'm like, yeah, but everyone else is paying this. So it's hard to find that balance, that's for sure. If we take it one step further, we just talk about bidding strategy. Within Amazon Advertising Console, you're also going to see different levels of bidding strategy. You're going to see fixed bids, you're going to see dynamic bids down only, dynamic bids up and down. So in general, I personally like to run with a fixed bid because I want to know exactly what my bid is that's going to get me that ACoS that I am trying to achieve, as we discussed in the slide prior. Certain softwares are going to do, dynamic bidding up and down. Some are going to do down only. It's really dependent on, I would say, like your threshold for aggression, similar to like stock market risk. If you want to be more aggressive and drive more sales, you're probably going to do dynamic bids up and down with a placement modifier. If you want to be a little bit more conservative, you're going to do dynamic bids down only. If you are, have control issues like I do, you're going to do fixed bids so you can calculate the perfect outcome every single time. The next thing is you're also going to have placement modifiers that you can stack on top of your bid management. And again, going back to Bradley's point in the very beginning, this is a high level. We have a lot of segmented content on going a little bit deeper. And once we're getting into placement modifiers, we're getting in the weeds here. But I know this is something that people frequently see within Ad Console, and it always comes up in our questions. Now, placement modifiers is taking things even a step further. So as Bradley and I have talked about, top of search, it's an incredible place to be. It's some of the highest converting placements on the page. Think about it as a customer. If you're typing in mason jar and I'm clicking on the first thing I see, I'm probably highly likely to buy. If I scroll to page 2 or page 3, I'm less likely to buy. I may be a little bit more price conscious, a little bit more conservative, and I'm shopping around. Top of search is an incredible place to be from a conversion rate perspective. So if you open up your placements within Ad Console, under your bidding strategy, you're going to see we can also make bid adjustments for top of search, rest of search, and or product pages. This is an interesting kind of use case. You can see that my top of search ACoS is 3%.
Good grief. $50,000 of sales at 3%. This is a real screenshot right here?
Yes, this is a real screenshot.
I want this Amazon account.
It's a high price product. But you can see product pages are 45%. For this product, this makes sense. I am more expensive than anything else in the market. So when I'm advertising on someone else's product detail page, it's hard to convert because they're like, why would I pay 3 times? I'm looking at a cheaper product. Why would I buy a more expensive product? So what we do here is we increase our top of search modifier because again, the customer that clicks on the first ad on the page, typically a little bit less price conscious, so they're ready to buy. So I thought it was important to kind of dive into placement modifiers. Now the last thing in this kind of section I'm going to talk about is the bidding strategy and the bidding math can be really difficult because you need to update it really frequently. You should be updating your bids multiple times a week, if not multiple times a day in a competitive category. But if you don't know the math on how to balance your profitability and your sales, then it is a project to manage on your own. I don't even manage bids manually anymore. We typically utilize a software because the software is going to allow us to choose the outcome we want and then, work within that outcome. So within Helium 10 ads, something that we utilize is the bidding templates, which says, hey, I'm going to maximize profitability, select. I'm going to maximize sales, select. I'm going to maximize launching, which is all about sales and impressions. That's going to allow us to then apply that bid optimization formula to every single keyword and every single campaign that we are working with. So you don't have to do all of the heavy lifting on your own.
You're the one who made a couple of these formulas, or all of
yes,
these.
These ones,
all of them are, they
worked closely.
I thought we were going to put your name on there, like this is the Destaney special one
no,
or something.
That was too scary.
Okay.
But I think the important thing to understand is it can be done on your own.
Yeah.
But you can see how difficult it can be to scale because, again, the market is setting the demand. So you have to be constantly evaluating your strategy based on the competitors and what their bidding is. And you can see the balance here, right? We started with creating keywords for the algorithm. Finding keywords for the algorithm is what keywords are most people searching, how much volume are they driving, and how well are they converting. The second piece of this is, okay, let's take that list of keyword research we did and align it to our specific audience that we are targeting, whether that's in your main image, it's how you're doing your content, your stores, things like that. Now we're taking that, it needs to be funneled directly into your ads. Again, advertising strategy is so dependent on things like budget, which is where this is a hard webinar. A lot of people are gonna be in the comments and be like, okay, I was looking for the exact playbook. You can't always give an exact playbook. You have to understand how to be flexible based on what the market's doing. And I think that's something that as a seller, you're gonna have to lean into, definitely.
Yep. So while this is not the exact playbook, this is a great overview that gives you a starting point so you know what direction to go. And a lot of this applies to, I don't care what level of seller you are. You're a brand new seller launching your first product. You've got 100 products under your belt. You need to launch your 101st. You're going to use a lot of the same strategies, but you just got to tailor make it to what works for you. She showed you a screenshot of vitamin C top page. I almost guarantee that those placements are like $10, $15 cost per click.
The headline ad gets up to
$40 cost per click for vitamin C, for a $20 vitamin C. I'm selling coffin shelves, a lot less competitors there. I'm paying 30, 40 cents. All right. So again, it's not one size fits all or the same thing, but the basic principles behind these strategies are the same for everybody. And so that's why, all of you guys can benefit. Now, we're going to take some questions now. So a lot of the tools that we were showing today is either free inside of Amazon, Product Opportunity Explorer, Brand Analytics we showed you a little bit of, or most of you said you were Helium 10 members, you have access to almost all these. If there's a couple of you who don't have a Helium 10 account, highly recommend trying out the Diamond Plan. Every single thing we showed, if you had the Diamond Plan, you absolutely would have access to. You can just go to helium10.com, use a discount code SSP. By the way, it's a plug for the Serious Sellers podcast. That's what it sounds like. You can hear Destaney usually once a month on there, and myself. So SSP10 will get you 10% off if you're a new customer who wants to try Helium 10 ads. It comes with a Diamond Plan. You used to have to pay separately. Now it just comes, no extra charge to use the software, and then you'll be able to use the rules that she made, and she humbly did not name after herself. She didn't want to take credit there, but make sure to get the Diamond Plan. If you're on Platinum, upgrade, give it a try on your next product launch. Have you seen a flip from organic search to paid search since 2023? We used to be 70-30 organic to paid in 23 to now 30-70.
Absolutely. I mean, if you opened up Amazon and typed in a search bar lately, Bradley and I did this yesterday, and I think 45% of the page, if not more, is sponsored ads. And this is always a fun debate. Everyone's like, okay, well, I'm going to pull back ads because I'm ranked number one. Even if you're ranked number one, the first 4 things in the number one placement is ads. And this is a fun, the market setting the demand thing. Everyone's like, okay, maybe I won't bid. If you don't bid, someone else will. So in the beginning, I would say 4 to 5 years ago, it was around 70-30. Then we saw a shift to 60-40. Nowadays, for brands that are not ranked in the top 4, it's probably 50-50, if not higher, leaning towards ads. If you have high repeat purchase rates and you're ranked really well, you can kind of keep that 70-30 split, but you better have some brand loyalty and a lot of DSP retargeting to help assist with that.
Somebody was asking about relaunch. So, a lot of this stuff we were talking about today is launching. Now, when you relaunch, you're not going to get that algorithmic love that a new one, like the honeymoon effect, because like we talked about at the beginning, Amazon's already got 1 million data points. So it's not like you're going to fool Amazon like, oh, it's been doing terribly all this time. We're going to go ahead and give it the benefit of the doubt and shoot it up the rankings. No, you've got 6 months of perhaps poor performance, right? That being said, a lot of the principles still would apply. Like you could do a big discount, like 50% off or something on your product and try and get more conversions. That's going to definitely boost your conversion rate, your click-through rate from search. And if you go aggressive in your Amazon advertising, yeah, you might gradually start moving back up. Or if you just keep things going the way it is, they also ask, hey, should I do giveaways without requiring reviews? No, if you're talking about giveaways in the old sense, that's against Amazon terms of service. So do not do that. Where in Amazon do I find the keyword suggestions? The one that Destaney was showing, like if you add a new campaign and it's a keyword campaign, there will be a tab that says suggested keywords. What you don't see there is like a score. So Helium 10 brings all of the keywords that Amazon has in its database and sorts it by the score, but at least using the Amazon advertising one, you should see at least 5-10 keywords, if not more. And there's no score there, but usually all of those are pretty highly relevant.
Small life hack: if you add your ASIN and you go to your suggested keywords and they're not relevant, that typically means you have a problem with your listing.
Yes.
Because Amazon is suggesting keywords that aren't aligned. So we typically see this with a new product launch. I'll go
100%.
in and look at my suggested keywords. If they're bad, Amazon does not know what to align your product with. So maybe don't run an auto campaign.
So important. And that's why if you have Helium 10, I always say you have your listing up, make it live, run it through and check the Amazon recommended rank, sort it from 1 to 20. And if you see some nonsense, like I had problems where I was selling some socks. It wasn't the beer socks, but it was coffee socks. And I started my campaigns. I was like, why am I not getting impressions on these main keywords, which is like gifts for coffee lovers and stuff like that? Well, it's because when I look at the Amazon recommended keywords, what Amazon thought I was relevant for was just like black sock, pink sock, like these generic keywords. Because if you think about it, coffee is a keyword that kind of belongs in the grocery category, right? And I'm selling socks, which is in the clothing category. So it kind of makes sense that Amazon was confused, even though I had the word coffee everywhere in my listing. So I saw, hey, I had to send some relevancy signals to Amazon before I would, start showing up in that Amazon recommended. Thanks guys very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye now.